Good morning, dear students of class 11 science. Welcome to environmental science class. We are dealing with the chapter ecology. In the last class, we have learned about flow of energy. Then we have learned about energy pyramid. Then we have started the nutrient cycles, under which we have learned about nitrogen cycle. So basically, what is nutrient cycle, right? We have gone through it also. So nutrient cycle means the traces that will keep the flow of nutrient from the physical environment. That means from where they are present in the air, okay, water, soil, or rock. So whatever the sources are there, and wherever they are present, from there these nutrients goes to the living organisms, right, where they will be utilized, and subsequently they are again released back into the environment. Okay, so that means they will be used from the reservoir from where they are present. It is utilized by the living organisms, and after their use by means of different ways, again it will be released back into the environment. So under that nutrient cycles, we have already done the nitrogen cycle. So today we will learn about the next cycle, which is called the carbon cycle. Okay, so I have taken this from the book, so it's in the page number 25. Okay, the carbon cycle, nutrient cycle is in the page number 25. Then in page number 26 we have got the carbon cycles. Clear? So basically, what is carbon cycle? We have heard the word carbon, right? When we just think about the carbon, the simply we will think about carbon dioxide, right? Because carbon source, generally the carbon dioxide is only the most important part of the air, right? Because it is being taken up by the plant to perform the process of photosynthesis. So what is carbon cycle? So carbon cycle is a set of biogeochemical cycle by which carbon undergoes a set of chemical reactions which changes the form of carbon as it moves through different reservoirs on the earth. Now, according to the definitions, what we can say is that carbon undergoes a series of chemical reactions. Clear? So we have got different reservoir or the different stores of carbon in our ecosystems. Reservoir means simple term we can say store. Okay, reservoir, RESERVOIR. So reservoir simply means the store. Clear? So where they are generally present. So within this reservoir, the carbon undergoes a different set of chemical reactions. It will changes its form. So as it moves through this reservoir. So what are those reservoirs on which carbon are generally present? So we have got four different types of reservoir, all right, where actually the carbon are present. So we'll just check those reservoir in which carbon are present. So first one is biosphere. Okay, the first one is biosphere. In biosphere, it is present in living and dead organism in the form of organic molecules. So mainly in the biosphere, right, the place where we survive, where we still live, the carbon is present in living and dead organisms in the form of organic molecules. In the atmosphere, it is present in the form of carbon dioxide. It will combine with oxygen and will form carbon dioxide. So in atmosphere, it is present in combination with oxygen in the form of carbon dioxide. In the soil, carbon is present as organic matter. In the lithosphere, it is present as fossil fuel and sedimentary rock. So whenever we used to burn the fossil fuel, carbon will be released. Okay. Then in the oceans, it is present as carbon dioxide and calcium carbonate. This is very, very important. Okay. In the form of calcium carbonate, they are present in cells of marine animals. You ever heard of the term mollusca, phylum mollusca, right? They used to have mantle, cavity, or the cell. So those cells are simply made up of calcium carbonate. Okay, so these are the different reservoir or the different stores in simple term where carbon are present. So these are the four reservoirs: biosphere, atmosphere, soil, lithosphere, and oceans. Clear? Now in the ocean, simply carbon is present in the ocean, okay, air, soil, and rocks in course of its cycle. But since we are saying that this carbon undergoes a set of chemical reactions when it will move from different reservoir. So generally, in simple language, we can say that carbon is present in ocean, in the air, in the soil, and even in the rocks, sedimentary rocks. But it will change its form from one form to another form. Okay, so in the air it is present in the form of carbon dioxide. It will leave or it will combine with oxygen and form the carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide is very essential for the plant to perform the process of photosynthesis, right? So now that carbon becomes the part of the plant, since the plant will utilize it for photosynthesis. Then whenever the animals will feed on the plant, it will become the part of the animal body. Yeah? And when the organisms or the animal dies, it can get converted into fossil fuels. Now that carbon will be trapped in the form of fossil fuels. Okay, for millions of years, because fossil fuel will take a longer period of time for its formation, and whenever we used to burn the fossil fuels, carbon will be released and it will again re-enter back into the environment. Clear? So that means over here we can say that the carbon is usually changing its form from one form to another form. Clear? So mainly simple terms we're using over here: during photosynthesis, carbon dioxide will be utilized by the plant in order to perform or in order to manufacture food. So carbon will be stored in the body of the plant. Now animals will feed on the plant. So by that way, the carbon from the plants will be stored in the body of the animal. So whenever the plants or animals will die, right, they can usually be a part of the fossil fuels. They can form the fossil fuels. So now the carbons will be stored in the form of fossil fuels, and whenever we will utilize the fossil fuel, whenever we will burn the fossil fuels, carbon dioxide will release and will re-enter back into the atmosphere. So this will form the carbon cycle. Okay, so look at the figure over here. So mainly by combustion, okay, because we are using the fuels like petroleum, diesels, right, coal is a form of fuel. So whenever we are burning these fossil fuels, carbon is released into the atmosphere. Clear? During respiration also, whenever we are performing respiration also, carbon is released into the atmosphere. Okay, then the carbon which is present in the atmosphere is being utilized by the plant in order to perform photosynthesis. Now those plants will be consumed by the animals. These animals, it undergoes the process of respiration, so carbon will be released into the environment. Okay, now these animals and the plants, they will die, right, and they will form the fossil fuel. And whenever we are using the fossil fuels, what is being released into the environment? Carbon is released into the environment. This is a simple illustration of the carbon cycle. Clear? Now let's come back to the men's impact on carbon cycle. What are the impact of men on the carbon cycle? First one, burning of fossil fuel. Okay, burning of fossil fuel increases the amount of carbon dioxide present in the air, because fossil fuel contains carbon. So whenever we are burning the fossil fuels, carbon will be released. Okay, so that will increase the concentration of carbon dioxide in the air. Number two, deforestation means cutting down of trees. It will remove the autotrophs which will otherwise take up the excess carbon dioxide, right? Because if you will go for deforestation, if you will cut the tree, then the amount of carbon dioxide keeps on increasing, which will lead to global warming that we know. Okay, because autotrophs are the plants, they used to fix the atmospheric carbon dioxide to mainly perform the process of photosynthesis. Clear? Number three, we can say that it is also not possible for the existence of life without carbon dioxide. Why? Because carbon dioxide is one of the most important component of photosynthesis. Clear? Not only that, but this gas, carbon dioxide, will also maintain the suitable temperature of our ecosystem of the planet Earth for the life to sustain. But if the concentration of the carbon dioxide keeps on increasing manifold, many times, then it will lead to global warming that we know. And the global warming can have several consequences, such as it will have effect on food production. There will be changes in food growing area because the climatic conditions will change. so food growing areas will be changed. Because of rising temperature, more irrigations will be required. Rise in temperature will favor the growth of pest, weeds, and crop diseases, that means unwanted plants. Number two, effect on biodiversity. Many species of plants and animals will become extinct, and many natural habitats of the living organisms will be lost. Number third, effect on climate. There will increase in average global temperature. That means the temperature of the earth will keep on increasing when the concentration of the carbon dioxide keeps on increasing. This will lead to the melting of glaciers and the permafrost. There will be prolonged heat waves and there will be heavy rainfalls. Effect on sea levels. There will be rising sea level because melting of glaciers will lead to the increase in the water level. So there will be rising sea levels. There will be flooding in the coastal areas and there will be beach erosion. So these are the impacts of men or the main roles on carbon cycles. Clear? So kindly go through the carbon cycles and the particular illustration of the carbon cycle. Next one, phosphorus cycle. Now the most important part of phosphorus is that phosphorus is an essential component of nucleotide. You have heard of DNA, deoxyribonucleotide. So this particular phosphorus is one of the most essential component of nucleotides. Okay, it is also required for the nucleic acids to form. Nucleic acids means DNA. So phosphorus is essential for the formation of nucleic acids also, which carry the genetic information in the cells. Now if you're getting confused, now where are these phosphorus present in nucleotide? Mainly just think of DNA. The backbone of DNA is mainly composed of phosphate or the phosphorus. So whenever we are learning about the DNA in class 10, I mentioned that nucleotide means what? Nucleoside plus phosphate, right? Because sugar plus base, ATGC, adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. So sugar plus base will form the nucleoside, and nucleoside plus phosphate or phosphorus simple will form the nucleotide. So phosphorus is one of the most essential component of this nucleotide. It is also essential for the formation of nucleic acids. Yeah, because it will form the backbone of nucleic acids or DNA. Okay, the phosphorus cycle is one of the slowest biogeochemical cycle. It moves very fast through the plants and animals, but it is very slow as it moves through the water, or let's say through the soil or through the sediment. It is found in phosphate cells and released by weathering. This is very important. Okay, so phosphate is released during the process of weathering. It dissolves in water and is absorbed by the plants. On decay of plants or animal, it is used in soil and rock formation. So mainly in the rock also we will find the phosphate or phosphorus. Okay, it may remain trapped for a very long period of time before it is released by weathering. So simply by the process of weathering, phosphorus is released back into the atmosphere or into the ecosystem. Phosphorus is liquid at room temperature and so not found in air. Simply. So mainly phosphorus is present in the form of phosphate cells and is only released by the process of weathering. Okay, so it will dissolve by the water, and therefore since it is dissolved by the water, it will be trapped or it will be absorbed by the plants. And whenever the plants and animals will decay, they will decompose by the process of decomposition. Clear? So whenever the plants and animals will start decomposing by the process of decomposition, all right, then it will be present in the soil and in the rock formation. So it will be utilized or it will be present in the rock. Okay, it will be present in the soil also. Clear? Now by mainly the process of weathering, all right, it will be released into the atmosphere after a longer period of time. Now what is the impact of man on the phosphorus cycle? Now phosphorus is simply present in the form of phosphate cells and released by process of weathering that we have learned. Okay, And it's very important that it is often the limiting factor is very little phosphate salt in the soil is only present. Okay, so men's action further disrupt the supply of phosphorus. Now how does the men's action will disrupt the supply of phosphorus? First one is deforestation. Now deforestation means, simply I told you, that is mainly the cutting down of tree. Okay, so deforestation of tropical forest reduces the available phosphate in the soil. Okay, there will be soil erosions. When the soil will erode, so the phosphate will also undergo erosions along with the soil. So deforestation of the tropical forest will reduce the available phosphate in the soil. Number two, mining of phosphate rocks, because rocks also contains phosphate, right? So mining of phosphate rocks for commercial purpose also reduce the availability of phosphate supply. Number three, agricultural runoffs and the discharge of sewage causes eutrophication. Eutrophication means the growth of unwanted plants or the weeds like algae in the water body. If you have visited any plain sites, right, any plain areas, then you have seen the water body containing lots of algal growth or the growth of the algae. You have seen the water body being completely covered by the algae. That is called eutrophication. Okay, and that eutrophication is simply caused due to the enrichment of the water body by the nutrients. Clear? So whenever there will be agricultural runoffs, the fertilizer that we use in the agricultural fields will be washed away to the nearer water body, which leads to eutrophications. And these eutrophications will disrupt the aquatic ecosystems, right, leading to the death of the aquatic plants and animals. Next one is the hydrological cycle, the most easiest one. Hydro means water, water cycle. Okay, so we all know that the water cycles or the hydrological cycle begins with the process of evaporation from the water body, mainly from the oceans, right? So when the water vapor cools, so when there is evaporation, the water will lost in the form of vapor. Now when this vapor will cool, it will condense and forms the cloud. That is called the process of condensation. So when the water vapor condenses, it will form the cloud, and when the cloud becomes heavy, they return back to the earth in the form of rain, precipitation. So first there will be evaporation of water from the oceans, and when this water vapor will cool, it undergoes condensation, it will form the cloud, and when this cloud becomes heavy, they will come back to the earth in the form of rain. And on reaching the earth's surface, it may evaporate and return to the atmosphere, or may enter the earth and become the groundwater. So that water can become the part of the groundwater also. Okay, now the groundwater, you can see over here, the groundwater may enter the stream, or in fact it may enter the ocean also. Clear? Or it may be taken up by the plants and enter the atmosphere through transpiration, because whenever the plant will absorb excess amount of water, the water needs to be lost by the process of transpiration. And what is transpiration? The loss of water in the form of water vapor from the aerial parts of the plant. Clear? So the balance of water remains on the surface and enters the oceans, and the cycle begins again. So again there will be evaporation, again there will be condensation, which will lead to the formation of cloud. Again the cloud will become heavy and will come back down to the earth in the form of rain. So this will form the hydrological cycles. Now main impact on the hydrological cycles. First one, removal of vegetation for agricultural, mining or developmental purposes increases surface runoff, reduces groundwater recharges, increases incidence of flood, and accelerates landslides and soil erosions. That means we have got tremendous impact on the hydrological cycles. We are the one who are disturbing the stability of our ecosystems, the balance of our ecosystems, right? We are removal of vegetations of agricultures, okay, continuous mining for development purposes. It will just reduce the underground water, right? It will increase the pressure of landslides, incidence of flood also. Okay, next one, removal of fresh water in excessive quantity disrupts the water cycle. Water is polluted such that ecological cycle is disturbed. The most important contributions of men's on hydrological cycle is simply that we are polluting the water body. And whenever the water body will be polluted, it will directly hamper the aquatic life, and in return, the human beings are also being affected because we are at the top of the food chain. Okay, so whenever the plants or the animals will be affected, then ultimately we are the one who will also suffer. Clear? So just go through hydrological cycles. So let's go through the comparative study or the anatomy of the nutrient cycles. First one, nitrogens. It recycles through air, water, soil, and living organism. So go through the nutrient, recycle through men's action and ecological impact. Clear? So nitrogens, you can see the sources, or it recycles through air, water, soil, and living organisms. Man's action, burning of fossil fuels, livestock farming, deforestation and harvesting of crops, use of inorganic fertilizers, and discharge of sewage. These are the role of human being. What is the impact on ecosystems? Nitrogen oxides form the acid rain, and acid rains are very harmful to our vegetations, right, to the monuments or the buildings. It emits greenhouse gases causing global warming, release vast store of nitrogen causing land degradation. It causes eutrophication, okay, the growth of algae or the unwanted weeds or the plants on the water body. Number two, nutrient is the carbon. Then it recycles through air, water, soil, and living organisms. Man's action, burning of fossil fuel, and deforestation will release the carbon into the environment or into the ecosystems. Ecological impact, emission of greenhouse gases, which will lead to global warming. Okay, removal of autotrophs leads to excess of carbon dioxide, causing global warming. It affects food productions, loss of biodiversity, and rise in the sea level, because global warming will lead to melting of glaciers, and whenever the glacier starts melting, the water level starts increasing, and there will be flood in the coastal areas also. Clear? Third one is phosphorus. It recycles through water, soil, and living organisms. Man's action on phosphorus cycle, deforestation and mining of phosphate rocks and agricultural runoffs. Impact on ecosystems, loss of phosphate leads to loss of soil fertility and disrupt the aquatic ecosystems. So here we have finished the nutrient cycles, where you have learned about nitrogen cycle, carbon cycle, and phosphorus cycles, and lastly we have learned about the hydrological cycles. Okay, so in the next class we will begin with the new topic, that is ecological succession. So this much for today. See you in next class. Thank you.